All right, howdy, and welcome back to the 5th annual Andes. This is our winners episode. We are celebrating the films of 2023, and as always, I am joined by Connor.
Hi, Dan. It's good to be here in my own home for the 5th annual Andy Awards.
Thanks for having me. We are live. No, we're not live. I mean, we're live, but you won't. You're not live for you.
I mean, we're currently living
Yes.
life today, right now.
We are live in Indiana. And we are recording this on a beautiful sunny March afternoon. We just watched The Incredible Shrinking Man. Good movie.
Good movie.
Good movie. That little guy.
He's a little guy trying his best to survive in a big world.
Exactly. So yeah, it has been a bit over a month since we picked these nominees. It's been 2 weeks since we picked the winners, because I will say we decided to choose all winners before the Oscars. We usually record this before the Oscars anyways, but we knew that we weren't going to get to it in time. So we decided to pick the winners instead of in person this weekend. We did it beforehand. So it's been a while where the Andes have already been decided.
Yeah.
How has everything sat with you so far?
It sat me pretty well. It's interesting having these decided on. We did it early Oscar morning, right?
Yeah, it was that Sunday morning.
Yeah. Knowing what our winners were going in, and already feeling complicated about choices before the Oscars. I explained to Dan this year. While I still am very proud of our nominees, I feel like I've just been maybe like discourse poisoned a little bit this year.
And this is kind of in relation to how much a couple films from this year have been talked about.
Yeah.
Kind of oversaturated in the feed.
And for good reason. Some of these films, you could argue, in collaboration with Top Gun Maverick the year before, has air quotes saved cinema. So I'm not gonna complain too much.
But yeah, so we've got all 14 categories ready to go. Plenty of movies to talk about. We have the winners here on these envelopes that we will open up before you. And of course, we're going to start off with the film and created category, Best Production. What does that entail, Connor?
Best Production is kind of an amalgam category for hair and makeup, costume design, and production design.
Beautiful. All right. And who are all the nominees?
The nominees for Best Production are Asteroid City, Barbie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Poor Things, and Oppenheimer. The Andy goes to Asteroid City.
Asteroid City. A beautiful film.
Yeah, you can't wake up if you don't fall asleep. So...
It's true, you can't.
You can't wake up, you don't fall asleep.
The mid-century Technicolor epic from Wes Anderson, Asteroid City here. I think this is taking home the Andy mostly for the insane, beautiful, really just masterful use of miniatures.
Yeah.
The creation of that town, Asteroid City.
Yeah.
And also the additional kind of, not like cutback flashback scenes, but like the black and white portions of the film that kind of run like a play, kind of in the background of the story.
Like every Wes Anderson film, this thing is primarily built on its performances and its production design.
Yes.
And you can't really get away from the level at which this was, air quotes, produced. Mm-hmm. I feel like Wes now, his most recent kind of era from French Dispatch, the Netflix shorts, and Asteroid City, is him further even embracing his artifice even more than he has been.
Yes, and this is the greatest example of it. I mean, he toyed with it on Grand Budapest. It's the first time we really see it of a story and a story and a story. But these last two films of his have really
actively
pushed that.
Having the film take place on a stage.
Yes.
And have the actors comment to us.
I love seeing what these people bring to the table of a Wes Anderson movie every year. So, bravo. Thank you for a beautiful movie. And enjoy your Andy.
Your certificate will be in the mail as soon as you tell us your address.
Exactly. All right. Moving on to Best Editing. The nominees are Jennifer Lame for Oppenheimer, Pietro Scalia for Ferrari, Kirk Baxter for The Killer, Takeshi Seiyama, Rie Matsubara, and Akane Shiraishi for The Boy and the Heron, and Matthew Hannum for The Iron Claw. And here we go. And the winner is Kirk Baxter for The Killer. Bravo, Kirk. Wow. The Killer.
Yeah.
David Fincher's new film, edited by Kirk Baxter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously...
Expertly.
Yeah, well, we talk about Wes's films driven by performance and production design. David Fincher's films are built in the edit.
They really are.
Very talented director, obviously, outside of that. But those films are heavily constructed in the edit. And, like, you know that Steven Soderbergh thing where he was sitting in with Fincher, I think, during the color correction of Panic Room? Do you know about that?
No.
He was sitting in with him, and David Fincher is in front of this giant monitor working with his colorist.
Yeah.
And he says to pause right there. And he points in like the top right corner, top left corner of the screen.
Yeah.
And he says that should be like 5 shades darker. Like that shadow should be like 5 shades darker. He's working on a miniature detail.
Whoa.
So when you are constructing a film in post-production, he's already there like a hawk on set getting like dozens of takes, but he's like literally frame by frame color correcting and editing. So he's a guy who's heavily built on details, and obviously The Killer is a film that one is all about details.
Yeah,
if you believe our main character.
Yeah.
But you can tell there was so much care that went into the edit and literally split seconds, like frame decisions. And it's so effective.
Yeah, it's because there's something not just about the editing of each sequence, but the length of every shot and how it works in sequence to craft the tension and the stress level or lack of stress level that Michael Fassbender's character is feeling at a certain moment. For a killer who's not really too good at his job. I know it's not a comedy because you hear that and you're like, oh, haha, yeah, he's like a bad assassin. But like, he's not great at...
He's messy.
He's messy.
He keeps failing upwards, which is fun.
Yeah. And obviously, I also want to point out the just masterful editing of the main fight sequence that we get, I believe, in Miami. It's in that house, I believe, in Florida that he goes to, and then the one with the fire. That is like this crowning jewel of the film for me. And it's
editing
so
is
cool.
all about pace, and this film is like impeccably paced.
And I never lose the thread. I'm never like, oh, what am I looking at? You know, the editor is really able to bring us on this journey in a very clear, concise way that's also engaging. So, bravo, Kirk Baxter. Moving on. Next up is Best VFX. What does that stand for?
That stands for visual effects, I believe.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Just go.
Anyway. The nominees for visual effects this year are The Creator, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Oppenheimer, and Beau is Afraid. And the Andy goes to The Creator.
Bravo to The Creator. I mean, we did talk about this one a little extensively in the nominations episode.
We're just talking about the film as a whole. I think the way it was constructed, every single aspect of filmmaking, even more so than usual, is directly tied to each other.
Yes.
Like the VFX in this are directly tied to the edit because the edit had to be finalized when they did VFX. They can afford to waste a cent of their VFX budget.
And the fact that it was able to come out this good on such a, I mean, again, we said relative shoestring, but with the scale of the film and what it's able to achieve, how it creates this world is amazing.
And finding, I don't know how much you know about the actual, I learned more about this since we actually gave it the nomination.
Oh, yeah.
But there were things where Gareth Edwards just be shooting, I believe, in Thailand. And he would just find these little moments, like there was a grandmother giving her granddaughter a candy bar, and he just fully made that woman a robot. That was not a planned shot. They did not have that worked out. They just found these like human moments and just, we're able to give the AI and computers more humanity by literally putting them inside human moments that they just captured organically.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the level of humanity that can be portrayed through digital imagery with very talented artists behind the wheel.
Yes.
We're not pro AI.
Very talented human
Human
artists
artists.
using
Yeah.
human hands to click those
Yes.
keyboards. Yeah. Okay. Next up, best cinematography. A classic.
Now, Dan, what is cinematography?
You see, moving images and light. Oh.
You see, the thing is, when you watch a movie, it's actually 24 still frames.
Whoa.
I know, crazy.
The nominees for cinematography are Shabir Kirshner for Past Lives, Hoyt van Hoytma for Oppenheimer, Robbie Ryan for Poor Things, Linus Sandgren for Saltburn, and Atsushi Okui for The Boy and the Heron. And the winner is Robbie Ryan for Poor Things. Robbie Ryan. Poor Things, which at this point has seen quite a bit of success and critical acclaim throughout the awards season. Obviously, with us being the final one of the season, this is kind of the big one, the big moment for Poor Things. We're
Award
happy.
season can finally be over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we have seen no shortage of praise for this film, not for just the performances or the direction, but for its technical aspects, and cinematography is one of those. And I think we were both just really blown away by how this film looks.
Yeah, there's few times every year where we watch a lot of movies, Dan. That's very fair to say. Maybe it's an understatement at this point that we watch a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And there's few times every year where I do see something I've never seen before. And there's a few times in Poor Things, a few of these shots where I've seen something I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that cinematography working in conjunction with the beautiful production design, costuming, the performances. But there's just such insane choices taken behind the camera on this thing.
Yeah. And it's what gets me most about the film is it's taking a couple of these alt house styles that you and I have seen before. I mean, just take a look at the fisheye lens work and the choreography and how Yorgos places bodies and movement in that fisheye sense. He's taking these things we've seen before, but pushing them to a new level and putting them in a new context that is really just otherworldly. Because as much as you can look at this on paper as a neo-Frankenstein period drama sex comedy, that's the genre, the micro genre this fits in. You can look at it on paper and it's a rather somewhat classical story.
Yeah.
And it even has that classical time period, but Yorgos is able to bring something else into this, and having Robbie Ryan behind the camera to bring that to life visually was a feast. And it's that thing is like, we've never seen something like this before. And also, this is also really new for Yorgos. He's done stylized stuff, but this is the first film of his that feels like he is really outside his oeuvre.
Okay, next category, guys, actually pretty special for us. We have a special guest presenter.
Special guest. We will let that special guest take it away.
The nominees for Best Stunt Work are The Iron Claw, John Wick Chapter 4, Magic Mike's Last Dance, No Hard Feelings, and The Killer. And the Andy goes to John Wick Chapter 4.
Bravo, thank you. For those of you who do not know, that is the host of To Watch, To Read, Erica. Erica, thank you so much for coming on and announcing the winner. John Wick, Chapter 4. Connor, what is a stunt?
What is a stunt? Well, Dan, it's funny you ask. Because the John Wick franchise shows us again and again that definition can be wider and wider and ever more exciting.
Yeah.
While this film is wall-to-wall stunts, yes, the kind of stunts you get from sequence to sequence are never the same. Mm-hmm. And especially multiple stunt performers were involved in this production. When you see someone like Keanu Reeves throwing himself to the wolves every single day.
Yes. In just this kaleidoscopic action film that leaves you wondering how they're going to impress you next with every single sequence. I always come back to that absolutely amazing, and it's not directly from above. It's not a god shot, but like diagonal dollhouse shot that they do. And it's this one long extended piece of amazing stunt coordination and stunt work. That's the one I always come back to, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And there's so many of those in this, not just the gunfights, but obviously, you know, the climax of the stairwell at the end of the film.
The stairwell, Donnie Yen in the kitchen.
Yes.
It's not the Arc de Triomphe. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The Arc de Triomphe scene where they're going around in circles.
Yes. But yeah, no, it's able to, I think, keep the tactile work of stunts at the forefront rather than it being like this gray slurry of you're just seeing crazy things and people moving around and explosions.
Very easily get tired.
Yes.
Especially in a 2 hour and 45-minute runtime.
A long movie. I was going into this thinking it'd be like 155. I didn't even read the runtime, and I was in a packed theater, and I'm like, it's still going? Like, he fell down the stairs again. But yeah, no, this what a magical film full stunts. So yeah, moving on. Next up, we have Best Score. The nominees are Richard Reed Parry for Eileen, Daniel Rawson and Christopher Bear for Past Lives, Devonte Hines for Master Gardener, Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, and Yujiro Noda and Kazuma Janucci for Suzume. And see, the winner is Daniel Rawson and Christopher Bear for Past Lives. This is all those 2000s New York underground folk rock. This is the pick.
This is for you.
This is for you because I am one of you. As a big fan of Daniel Rawson and Christopher Bear's work in the past, and a big fan of soundtracks and films in general, I am personally really happy about this pick. And it was one Connor who actually pointed my head in this film's direction. So this being one of your favorite films of the year, how do you feel the score kind of elevates this film for you?
Past Lives, for me, is such an intensely, for everybody who's seen the movie, it is a very intensely emotional piece, very melancholic piece. And obviously, music and score play a big part in connecting us to the world of the film and kind of guiding our emotions along with the images. So while I cannot tell you directly what this piece of score made me like weep, I can say I know the film would not be as successful if it was not for the score under it. And listen to it by itself, it is a beautiful piece of music.
It is. And obviously, when we're talking about best score, it's not just we listen to the album on Spotify. It's the score itself. It's the instrumentation and the setup of the score paired with how the filmmakers use that music effectively within the film. And the way this peaceful atmosphere is able to convey through the music such an emotionally devastating story is one of the strongest aspects of this film. And it is here we recognize Daniel Rawson and Christopher Bear, one half of Grizzly Bear, for their great work on elevating this film to the emotional place where it hits most people. So, heck yeah, best score. What you just heard was a little sound piece of the best score winner from this year from Past Lives, and now we are moving on to our first honorary award of this year. Connor, take it away.
Well, Dan, this is, like you mentioned, our first honorary award of the evening, and the second year overall we'll be awarding the Andy Serkis Award, honoring achievement in vocal or motion capture performance. And this year, we are giving it to our first duo of performers, Sean Gunn and Bradley Cooper, for their work on Rocket Raccoon. And Dan, as you're well aware, the MCU and I have had a very complicated relationship, but a vast majority of their films just don't entirely work for me and oftentimes left me feeling empty as I left the theater.
Yeah.
Though there were a few exceptions, the most prominent being the Guardians, and most particularly, Rocket Raccoon. That little CGI raccoon, for me, exemplifies everything that the MCU, superhero cinema, and cinema as a whole is capable of at its peak. He's beautifully complicated, his journey of self-discovery and acceptance drawing us in, allowing us to experience every joy and every heartbreak alongside of him. He keeps us grounded, no matter how surreal or distant the world may seem, making those 24 still images feel more fluid than life itself. For me. And that's just my little gab about Rocket Raccoon, a man that I absolutely adore.
That's a beautiful little gab.
Thank you. But the reason why we don't just have Bradley here, despite him being like you and me's Rocket Raccoon. When we see Rocket, we obviously see all the visual effects the wonderful artist did, and we see, or better yet, hear Bradley Cooper's vocal performance. But we don't really think about as much that on set, Bradley Cooper never steps foot on the Guardian set. Who is in there, who is doing all the motion for Rocket and the reference for Rocket, is Sean Gunn. Obviously brother of James Gunn, but more importantly, he also plays Kraglin in the film as well. So if you watch any of the behind the scenes of any of the Guardians movies, any of the commentaries where James is speaking, James Gunn, the director, I should be less formal, where James Gunn, the director, is speaking, when he talks about Rocket, he praises Bradley, but more often he's talking about his brother Sean. And how every moment on set, every reaction you see on film, is they're not thinking about Bradley Cooper. They're thinking about Sean Gunn, who's right in front of them.
Yeah.
And he is the reason every one of those actors, and by extension, us, because action is reaction. Mm-hmm. And we care about Rocket already. But when we see how Star-Lord breaks down holding him when we think he's died in Guardians 3, we are feeling Star-Lord's pain more than just our love for Rocket. Which is why I think that movie's really good. But anyway.
Absolutely.
I think that's why we have to give it to Sean Gunn as well, because he arguably is even more of Rocket than Bradley is.
Bravo to Sean and Bradley.
The next category is Best Supporting Actor. The nominees are Charles Melton, May December, David Harbour, Gran Turismo, Harris Dickinson, The Iron Claw, Mark Ruffalo, Poor Things, and Benny Safdie, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And the Andy goes to Charles Melton, May December.
Woo! Yeah.
What's making you feel bad?
It's not. I don't feel bad. Like, I'm just trying to say. What if I wasn't ready to be making those kinds of decisions? And then what? Because the kids. What would that mean?
Charles Melton, an individual who I met and have only experienced through May, December. I am told by Connor that he has had an entire career before this point that I am not aware of. But as I am often missing out on the social ebb and flow of film and television, I only know Charles Melton from May, December, and this is a fantastic performance from a young actor with, I think, a lot of potential. And this is another one, much like Past Lives, where Connor kind of pointed me towards this movie and said, hey, look at this guy. And he killed it. So, yeah, I mean, and it's also something to be said about, like, this is a kind of performance and a kind of character that I feel like I've never seen before. Not just Melton's performance, but the character and how it's written, the position of life he is in, the fact that he has this very complicated relationship that began many years ago, and showing us the character 20 years on at this point, and where he is mentally, is fascinating. It really is.
Like we said multiple times in our discussion of Charles Melton's performance, it's one that builds up to itself and like kind of puts the puzzle pieces together as it goes. And as you watch his performance evolve, you yourself become more involved in his character and understanding. And like when it fully hits, it shatters me. And I think this is an incredibly difficult performance, an incredibly it is itself incredibly controversial incredibly controversial performance concerning the movie it's surrounded with as well, and all the debates surrounding May December as a whole piece of art. But I think while that film is ultimately successful, I think that film only works the best it does because you have Charles Melton playing Joe.
Yeah, I think he's able to bring an emotional grounding point to the film that reminds you that the story is not just about these two women trying to do what they're trying to do while working with themselves, but also living their lives. We're talking about, obviously, the two leads, Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. But no, having Charles Melton's character there is what changes the film, is what gives the film this added sense of emotionality and depth that is, I'm always excited and I'm always sad to see him on screen, and it's the best feeling.
It's an obviously very overwrought expression, but he is the heart of the film.
Yeah. So, Charles, bravo. We wish you luck. Come on the show if you want to accept your certificate or send it to you. We're happy to have you and talk about movies.
Yeah, we're always happy to invite future presenters.
Exactly.
You're more than welcome to give this category or the following supporting actress in the coming years.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to that exact category, Best Supporting Actress. And the nominees are Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers, Allison Oliver for Saltburn, Viola Davis for Air, Kate McKinnon for Barbie, and Rachel McAdams for Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And the winner is Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers.
I heard you got stuck with babysitting duty this year. How'd you manage that?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose I failed someone who richly deserved it.
Oh, the Osgood kid? Yeah, he was a real asshole. Rich and popular combination around here.
It's a plague. And you? You'll be here too?
All by my lonesome. My little sister Peggy and her husband invited me to go visit them in Roxbury, but I feel like it's too soon. Like Curtis will think that I'm abandoning him, you know? This is the last place that my baby and I were together. Not including the bus station.
Well, I look forward to your fine cooking.
Oh, no, don't do that. All we've got is whatever's in that walk-in. No new deliveries till January.
It's funny. So I got a new job in November. I now deliver wine. And when I'm driving down Route 89, I will go past Exit 4 to Randolph, Vermont. And a couple things pop in my head, obviously. But most of all, especially when we were doing this nominations episode, I drove by and I was like, Davine Joy Randolph. She's been on my mind in a lot of ways. But most of all, for this performance in The Holdovers. A masterful performance of anything, a school lunch lady, a grieving mother, a black woman in 1970s America, a lot of things.
Yes.
That she's wrapping into this really interesting dramedy period piece, you know? Are there any specific moments for you, Connor, that really shine for why you think she got this win?
Well, she's spoken a lot on the awards circuit this year, because obviously we're not alone in awarding her for this movie. I think we're, one of literally hundreds of bodies that have given her awards this month.
Probably, yeah.
And even before, she was giving these speeches after winning, she's someone who is incredibly thoughtful and graceful and brings so much to this character. Even, minute details. Are you aware about the glasses she wore in the movie?
No.
The glasses she wore in the movie, and Erica, you can correct me if I'm wrong, those glasses belonged to her grandmother.
Oh.
And she purposely brought those on set to feel a connection with the woman that was, living at this time in 1970s America. Wow. And so they'd be able to see through her eyes.
That's wonderful.
Yes, but
and these are the thing. Those are really realistic
they're
glasses.
Great glasses because they're real glasses.
Yeah, wow.
But that's the thing, is she's somebody who puts that level of thought and care in a very small detail that no one would even comment on Mary's glasses.
But for her, it's everything.
That's a way to directly connect her with someone in her life who was alive at this time.
Bravo to Davine Joy Randolph. I hope your prescription was similar to your grandmother's and your eyes all messed up now, because wearing the wrong prescription can be dangerous, kids. Okay? That one's for my mom. All right. Moving on, we have Best Actor.
Yep. The nominees for Best Actor are Adam Driver, Ferrari, Coleman Domingo, Rustin, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers, and Ryan Gosling, Barbie. The Andy goes to Coleman Domingo, Rustin.
Each of us are taught in ways both cunning and cruel that we are inadequate, incomplete. And the easiest way to combat that feeling of not being enough is to find someone we consider less than. Less than because they are poorer than us, or because they are darker than us, or because they desire someone our churches and our laws say they should not desire. When we tell ourselves such lies, start to live and believe such lies, we do the work of our oppressors by oppressing ourselves.
Now, Connor, what is acting?
What is acting? I'll tell you what acting is, Dan.
Yeah.
I think each of these 5 nominees show us what acting is and the way we're able to connect to a performer on a screen as though they are right in front of us.
Yeah.
That's acting.
This performance as Bayard Rustin from Coleman Domingo.
I believe it is the first time he's ever been number 1 on a call sheet through his entire career.
Well, it took us a while to get there, but he capitalized on that opportunity.
He has always been somebody. I shouldn't say always. I'm relatively new to him as well. He's somebody for years. I knew him as like that guy who would show up occasionally and it was just very good. It wasn't until Euphoria, or he's not like a series regular, but he's a very recurring guest star as Rue's sponsor Ali. Glad we finally got it, and we finally got to see the incredible depths he goes to play this character, this real person. That sadly, for me, I had not heard of until this movie and the press surrounding it. But I'm glad that there's movies like Rustin that do play a small part, leading hopefully into a larger part in, illuminating these tragically, oddly lost figures in history.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that Coleman was able to do such great work to do that. And I'm glad that we were able to do our even smaller part of rewarding him for it today.
Yeah. And also, I have to give it to George C. Wolfe, the director, who also directed Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, who has been, well, ever since Ma Rainey, a mainstay.
That's a good point, Dan.
Yeah.
I did not even bring it the fact that's another weird Andy's record that got set today.
Yeah.
He has directed 2 Andy winners in this category.
Yes, he has.
That's very fascinating.
Chadwick Boseman and
Coleman Domingo,
Coleman Domingo.
Coleman Domingo was also in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah, he was. And Glyn Turman got the
Turman.
nom that year because I loved... Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure George C. Wolfe is able to just really get these amazing performances from these actors. Obviously, he's writing these characters, or he's picking these stories that have a lot of weight and a lot of historical importance. But, I mean, as you've said many times, he's able to... Like this, I mean, this film is able to craft a certain sensitivity about all these kind of mythic historical people, because we're not just seeing Rustin. I mean, we meet Martin Luther King. We meet so many members of the NAACP. Like, there's so much going on in history as we're watching this sort of this big scale historical moment come to a head in the climax, which is the March on Washington. Having all this history go around and seeing Bayard Rustin and how he handles his anonymity and then his lack of anonymity and then his refound anonymity, somewhat forced anonymity with his contributions to the civil rights movement, how he's able to just handle it with such class and never lose sight of what's important, of I'm doing this for my people.
Yeah.
And because it's important, because equality is important. And it floored me when I watched it. And I am so happy that Coleman Domingo is getting this win for this performance, and I'm excited for what he does next.
Yeah.
So
I mean, well, I'm gonna make a broad Andy prediction like I did the previous couple years ago with Thomasin McKenzie. She's in that Kelly Gang movie.
yeah.
So there's a film coming this year, called Sing Sing, about Coleman Domingo plays an incarcerated man who is the head of the prison's theater department.
Oh.
And it looks incredible, and the trailer brought me to tears. So
I haven't even seen the trailer.
We,
oh my goodness. All right. And next up is Best Actress. And the nominees are Margot Robbie for Barbie, Emma Stone for Poor Things, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Io Adebri for Bottoms. And the Andy goes to Emma Stone for Poor Things.
These two are fighting and ideas are banging around in Bella's head and heart like lights in a storm.
Oh. You're always reading now, Bella. You're losing some of your adorable way of speaking.
I'm a changeable feast, as are all of we. Apparently, according to Emerson, disagreed with by Harry.
Come, just come.
You were in my son.
What?
And this is as well her third collaboration with Yorgos Lanthimos after The Favorite and short film Bleat, which you can't really find anywhere, but I'd love to see it someday. And she also has 2 more films with Yorgos coming out, Kinds of Kindness and Save the Green Planet. So we are on like year 6 of maybe what might turn into a decade-long collaboration of films with Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos and American actress Emma Stone. And I think it is that kind of dedicated collaboration where this performance comes from. I think there is so much coming from a shared understanding of who a character is and how to progress a character's arc in the way that Emma and Yorgos approach this. And she brings it. She brings it. She's got the juice.
She does have the juice. That is true.
And it is just a feast of acting to watch. It's really shamelessly brave for many, many reasons, but also just very impactful. She is the emotional and intellectual core of the film, and balancing those 2 parts of Bella Baxter, her character, and bringing this story to life is just really amazing to watch, you know, in a film that really could have lost itself in its own alt house weeds. I think she really helps to ground it in that way.
If the performance of Bella Baxter read Fall Straight in a Second, the entire House of Cards would collapse.
Yeah, it could just be like, oh, this is altsy nonsense. Y'all are just prancing and dancing around on some weird film set. But it's not that. It's a very pointed take on, well, this, as I said, this neo-Frankenstein period drama sex comedy.
Yes.
And yeah, it's really fantastic.
I've been an Emma Stone fan since 2009. It's like I've been
Easy A?
Yes.
I've been a fan since Easy A as well. I didn't see it in theaters, but when my sister showed me Easy A in high school, and it became instantly one of our favorite films to watch together.
No, the 1-2 punch of Easy A and Zombieland in 2009 is
you had
pretty
Zombieland
cemented.
too.
Like, she's like one of, at least for me, one of my favorite actresses, and consistently she's improving upon her craft, and we get stuff like Bella Baxter that's fearless and undeniable, and
It's fascinating also to go back nearly a decade to maybe one of the other performances you fell in love with her with, La La Land. Her other Oscar nom, her other Oscar win, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see where she has gone and where she's come. Because I also, just a week or 2 ago, with Angie, we watched The Help, which was one of her first dramatic turns as an actress, and seeing her be able to be a comedic actress and a dramatic actress through kind of the span of the 2010s was really fascinating, because I think that was the perfect combo for Poor Things. I think she's always been in that place of I can do drama and I can do comedy, and I can put them together and I can create a really salient piece of cinema. And I think that's why her collaboration with Yorgos works so well, and why they have this great line of films. We have 3, we're getting 2 more. So I'm really excited to see that continue. But yeah, she was perfect for this role, you know? Mm-hmm. But okay, moving on, we have our next honorary award. And this is the Thomas and Mackenzie Award, which we give out for an outstanding calendar year of film achievement. Named, of course, after 3-time Andy nominee Thomas and Mackenzie. And this year, the winner goes to Dan O'Connell. Now, you might not know who Dan O'Connell is, but he is a Foley sound artist, and this year he is being awarded this for his Foley sound work on Cocaine Bear, Dungeons & Dragons, Air, Fast X, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Last Voyage of the Demeter, The Creator, and Leave the World Behind. A couple of those films nominated this evening. Now, he, as a Foley artist in Hollywood, is one of the many people who helps make movies sound the way we know them to sound. And he's had an amazing year in cinema. And not to mention his most recent film work, Dune Part 2. Considering the amazing Foley work and sound effects we are treated to, particularly in films like Oppenheimer and Cocaine Bear and The Creator, Dan has many times over earned our respect here at the Film and offices. Honestly, some past Andy's nominees he's worked on include Babylon, One Night in Miami, and Underwater. And even farther back, you may know some of his other films. He's been working since the early 80s on projects like Stand By Me, Magnolia, Scream 3, Gladiator, X-Men First Class, Skyfall, La La Land, A Star Was Born, and Avengers Endgame. Again, I left out so many of his films, but what I love most about Foley Alt is the fact that it is integral to every film out there. You know, the names of those films I just listed are wildly different stories of varying scale, but whether it's a low-budget, like family drama, or a $100 million action film, Foley is needed, and Dan is one of the legends in the industry. And, I mean, I personally have logged 72 of his credited films on Letterboxd, which is crazy. But this guy's prolific, so bravo, and thank you for making our cinematic experience that much better to listen to. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
So many movies.
Yes. When we think about, and we're not immune to this, when we think of people in movies, we think about the director, the actors, the cinematographer. We very seldom are like, who did Foley for that movie?
Yeah.
But he is somebody, unbeknownst to us, is so instrumental in every moment, you know? We don't think about the way a cup sounds when it gets laid on the table.
No.
But this guy does. And if they set a cup down, because I've watched things where there's not Foley work done. Like we've made films before.
Yeah.
I've watched things where there's not Foley work, and a moment reads false because there was not the proper footstep or cup or anything.
Yeah.
And it's something so tiny, but can instantly take you out of not done correctly, not giving the proper thought and attention. Yeah. And this guy gives us the proper thought and attention. So thank you, Dan O'Connell, for doing the work.
Yeah, and personally, as someone who's had to do Foley work before for his own film, for his friends' films, it's difficult. It is really difficult, and the fact that he's had all these decades to hone his craft and really figure out what makes our human ears tick in a cinematic experience and what's able to give it that extra kick and punch and really immerse us in film, that's the game changer between a good and a great film sometimes. So it's really awesome that he does what he does, and everyone in his lane of filmmaking does what they do. So thank you. And next up, we have Best Director. Connor, take it away.
The nominees for Best Director are Emerald Fennell, Saltburn, Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, Hayao Miyazaki, The Boy and the Heron, Michael Mann, Ferrari, and Sean Durkin, The Iron Claw. And the Andy goes to Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer.
Wow. Christopher Nolan is one of the greatest filmmakers of our era. He's made another great film, a favorite of mine and Connor's. It is impactful. It's been talked about the world over. Christopher, we love you. Moving on.
Oh, no.
What else? Connor, what else is there to say?
I know, like we talked about this when I talked about discourse poisoning.
All right, Connor. What is directing?
Oh, God. That's a good question. Well, Dan, every movie is an impossible feat. And again, the one, I don't know. Cut that out. But anyway, yes, when I talked about discourse poisoning, you can figure it out. I was talking about Barbenheimer. Not shocking information, I'm sure. But regardless of the fact that I've heard the word Oppenheimer every time I've gone any film punditry thing 10 times every day, I still love the movie. Yeah. And I do think it is ultimately successful. And I think it's weird to call a Christopher Nolan movie beautiful, but a beautiful and rousing piece of art.
Yeah.
And he does get this director nom and win. I do feel the best directed film of the year. despite some very stiff competition with these other 4 nominees.
Yeah.
And it was down to the wire in this choice. We can say that for sure.
We took a while trying to pick this one. But yeah, I'm happy to say that Christopher Nolan, more than maybe any other film of his career so far, this feels so expertly directed, talking about the gravity and the weight of J. Robert Oppenheimer's journey to creating the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And the ramifications of what that means for all of humanity afterwards. And someone who likes working at the scale that Christopher does, he was a great fit for this project, obviously. And I think he stepped up to the plate and hit a home run with it. So bravo to Christopher Nolan. I know you have a little space in between all your Oscars to slip in a little PDF document.
A little flat document,
a little flat piece of paper.
A 2D object.
Yes. But yeah, if you ever want that space on your shelf, you got it here. All right, moving on. I believe, Connor, we only have one category left.
That's right, Dan. We're down to the final category of the night, Best Picture. And the nominees for the 5th Annual Andy Awards Best Picture Award are Blackberry,
Bottoms,
Ferrari,
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3,
The Holdovers,
The Iron Claw,
Oppenheimer,
Past Lives,
and Rustin.
And the winner is
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, just like how we talked about the film previously with its Best Director win, yeah, this is all Best Picture for the year. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, starring Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, and Robert Downey Jr.
The rest of Hollywood.
And the rest of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Everyone is in this room. Yeah. It was funny. We had spent, I think, I don't even know, maybe 45 minutes the other day trying to get Connor to guess what actors from Oppenheimer were in my top actors of all time list, my personal favorite actors. And he kept guessing cast members of Oppenheimer, and he did not get took. He went through the entire cast, and we just ended up realizing, oh my goodness, the cast assembled for this. It's so deep. The cast list is so deep, and it's so many multiple collaborations, so many actors who have worked with Nolan before, so many new actors who haven't gotten the chance to work with him yet, coming together for this amazing, just again, kind of feast of acting, cinematography, of screenplay writing, and it's a rapturous experience, you know?
There's a reason this thing, in addition to obviously the culture move behind it, was a success. It's more the same for us to give Oppenheimer Best Picture.
Yeah.
Because I feel sadly it does diminish the experience for not just us, but the board as a whole. Because people at the Oscars are like, oh yeah, it's Oppenheimer, and they turn off the TV and they go back to bed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's Oppenheimer, and they turn off YouTube.
Yeah.
You know? But regardless of that, it's a deserving award, and I'm very happy for the win, and I'm very happy for, you know, another rapture success for Nolan's career.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's somebody who we'll see again. Like, I was remember that Tenet got 4 Andy nominations. Obviously, it won the one, but it got 3 other nominations.
Yeah.
And I think Nolan obviously is somebody we're going to continue to see, and somebody who's continue to be successful. And he's somebody who already had access to incredible resource to make these brilliant movies. And now with, you know, winning 3 Academy Awards, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Now with winning himself, I think he's won 3, not just the actual movie. But
Yeah, it's picture, director, and...
I mean, just picture and director. It didn't win screenplay.
No, he didn't. It's 2. He won 2.
But now with winning Academy Awards, Universal is going to back up even more trucks of money to him. So we'll see whatever comes next. And I'm very excited for it.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
He's someone we can always trust to give us the most pure, the most exciting, and the most thought-provoking, and the most medium-pushing film that he is able to do. That he and Emma Thomas can come up with and assemble and say, here is us pushing this format of filmmaking forward.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think Denis Villeneuve is joining him, but I've always jokingly called Nolan the People's Auteur.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to continue to be his title.
I hope it's the case. I mean, I've loved so many of his films. Obviously, I mean, there's so many to choose from. But yeah, bravo to Oppenheimer, the cast and crew. This is for all of you. You know, if you did Foley sound, If you were a background actor, thank you a million times over.
If you were a Senate aide.
If you were a Senate aide, man, this one's for you. If you were the aide to the Senate aide, this one's for you. But yeah, I believe that concludes the 5th annual Andes. We're half a decade in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the next half decade.
Here's to the next half decade. Clink. Obviously, thank you so much for tuning in. It's a joy for us to bring this to you every year. It's a joy for us to meet up in person every year and have this be our little time to be together to watch a bunch of movies over a weekend and then do the Andes.
And I'm very glad we get to do this every single year. And like Erica is painfully aware, when I'm not doing the Andes, I'm thinking about the Andes. I'm already thinking, okay, who's going to be what for what category?
Yeah.
What's Dan going to say? I'm never not thinking about this award show and this sit down.
Angie would say the same thing.
Yeah.
The amount of times I'm like, well, I could put this person in, but who's going to make my shortlist for the Andes? Should we watch this movie? Do you want to watch this movie? She's like, I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a big part of what we do here. And until next time we hear, we'll
see you maybe next nomination episode, if not sooner.
Definitely sooner.
Okay.
But yeah, for all of you out there, have a good rest of the year. Enjoy 2024, another exciting year in movies, and we will talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time. Bye, guys.